Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start my timer. So I'm going to be respectful to the next speaker. So I will be talking about notebook jobs, but with all my talk, I first want to make a point why you should be listening to this, because if you cannot appreciate the topic, it wouldn't make sense to you, right? So we already are aware of SQL agent jobs. We can run jobs, save stuff, write the output to a table, or to a folder location and all that. But with notebooks, the main advantage that what I find is you can run this as a notebook jobs either on a schedule or on demand, and it actually produces the output with another notebook. So that means your query, your comments, your timestamp, everything is there. So you can, and I've seen multiple presentations this morning. People talked about notebook, that you can send all this to someone else. So like, you get up at 2 o'clock, you had a major outage or an issue in your production environment. Oftentimes, we do run queries and the next day morning, I remember what the setting was that I changed at 2 o'clock, right? What was the setting before I solved it? So I can check my other environments, or I don't have this problem next time. So when you run this as a notebook, it's saved. And if you run it again, you will see in the notebook jobs, it's not going to overwrite your previous output. So you can have multiple versions. And many of the speakers mentioned today that, if you're working in a team in multiple countries, you can all have a standard notebook that, okay, if we have this problem, we run this notebook. If we have that problem, we run that notebook. And, like you can incorporate like, Glenn Berry's, queries. Brent Ozer has a bunch of those. Microsoft Tiger team has a bunch of those. So, depending on what situation you have. So I do not have any slide. Anything you need, my contact, abstract of this, all of this here. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to get back to prerequisites. So you need to first create your notebook that you want to run as a job, and you need enable SQL Server agent extensions. So if you're not familiar with this product, Azure Data Studio that I'm using, it is pretty lightweight, but it's based on extensions. So whatever extensions you need for whatever you're going to do, you load. And if you don't need that anymore, you can disable that extension. That way you can keep this tool pretty lightweight. So what I'm going to show you, if you want to mimic this, you need this extension. As you'll see here, I have this extension loaded and enabled. That's why I see these two buttons, because I can disable or I can uninstall. So once you load that extension, I've done that, and I created a notebook for demo purpose. I have two. Now, for running a notebook as a job, I can use the MSDB, but just so you know, you can save your metadata and output to any database, or you can just have a dedicated database just for your notebook jobs. It's all your choice. In my case, I'm just going to create an empty database named notebook jobs. And what this will do, as soon as I create my first job, it will create these two tables, and I'll talk about those later on. How do you create a job with a notebook? I'll show you this, but if you want to read more about this, this is a URL. It's a good description from SQLshack.com, and there are 6 elements. There is a short description. I pretty much copied from there. I modified a little bit, but I want to give credit that I did not write this from scratch. So I want to make sure that people are aware of it. That's why I put this link here. And if you already have a job with, normally by default, it's going to take the name of your notebook. So I have a notebook, as you can see here, database configuration. So the job is going to take the same name. So in case, I have tried this few times today and I cleaned up, so there is nothing here. So now let's show you how I'm going to create a job. Once I'm in the database pane or the server connections, and I know you might ask me this question, can I do this in Azure SQL Server? I know when Warwick showed this, Warwick is a data platform MVP in Australia. I actually asked him that question, and that's why I know that some of you might ask him. You cannot do this against Azure SQL Database or Azure SQL Database Server as of today. And the reason you cannot do this, once you have this here, once you right click, you go to Manage, and you see the SQL agent extension pop up here. That's how we'll do the work. If I do the same on my Azure SQL database server, I created this morning just for this demo. I go to manage. As you see that it does not pick up anything on the SQL Server agent extension, because behind the scenes it's actually using most of the stuff from our SQL Server agent. So just to put that out, you cannot use it. So now we go to SQL Server agent. Here you will see all your existing jobs that you already have, and you can run those, you can modify those from here, but that's not the scope of this talk. So let's go to notebook, new notebook job. We pick up the notebook that we have already created. As I said, this is a prerequisite. So don't worry about what I'm doing with this notebook, right? You can take my notebook and do whatever you need to, just try to get the concept. I'm just saving my database configuration. I can save it once a day, once a week. So if someone changes it, I can go and compare. But again, that's not the point. For my storage database, I'm going to use the new database that I just created. Execution context, since I'm only looking at the database configuration, I'm going to keep it as master. As you see the name, it picked it up from my notebook. I'm the owner. Now I can pick a schedule. You cannot create a new schedule here. If you need to create a new schedule, you have to go to your SQL Server agent and create one. So you pick a schedule, whatever you need. You can choose not to pick one, or you can just want to run it on demand. So I'm just going to pick up, just for the sake of demo, I'm going to run this every 6 hours, and this is a demo data minute. Okay, so now I have this notebook jobs created, and if I click that, as you can see, so let's get some more real estate. I can run this, stop, refresh, I can edit this. Now let's run this. And if we refresh it, you see that we ran it, it was successful, and it created actually another notebook. And this is the beauty, that's why I like it. Not every job I'm going to create run book and run it as a you know, and schedule it as a notebook job. No, I wouldn't do that. But there are things that now I can take advantage. As you see that the output is saved here, my query is saved here, and if I want to, you know, be a little bit more clever, I can put a date time stamp with all of this current date time, so I know when it was run. I can do whatever I want. As I said, you know, my goal is not to show about this, but try to get the concept. Now, where is this saved, right? So that's something I want to show you. So let me. This actually goes to this location, and it saves as a notebook, right? So I can just copy this, distribute it, move it to a share, so my other teammates can grab it from there. So I showed you that. Now let's look at those two tables. What happened to those two tables that I talked about? So the first one holds your metadata about the job. The second table actually holds the runtime stats. So every time you run it, it will add a record. You can actually run these notebooks from a command line, invoke SQL notebook. If you didn't know, there is a bug with the open editor file, and I want to show you. And also I found another bug that I have two notebooks. This one doesn't save output. This one does save output. Why it does it, I don't know. I did reach out to Aaron Nelson. I'm in touch with him. I'm still trying to understand why I'm having this issue. Is it a bug, or is it just something that I'm doing wrong? So once I find it, I'll probably update this notebook with those. So I was testing this. If you see this, I run this. It still gives me the output, but when I open it, you see that error message. And the way I know that it's the open editor file is the problem. If I run this, I do not get any error. I still get the output. And this time, the output by default, if I do not put any path, it will save it in the same folder, but I can also put output path file location. And that's all I had, I believe. So let me close this. Let me see if I have anything else. So I put some resources here. If someone wants to read more about this and get into more details. And I also have my contacts at the top. If you want to reach out with any good, bad, neutral feedback, but be constructive, tell me how I can improve. Don't just tell me that you didn't like it, then I don't know why you didn't like it or how I can improve. So I still have 20 seconds. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to keep watching the chat. If you have any question, comments, I'll answer there. Otherwise, I will hand this over back to Ben.